It's kind of crazy that it's already April. Welcome to my March 2025 reading wrap up. I'm going to talk about the books that I read in March. I'm going to show y'all the books that I snatched up when I went to the bookstore downtown a few days ago. And we're going to talk about what I'm currently reading. So, first, let's go ahead and talk about what I read. We're going to go in the order in which I read them. The first book being the book I actually finished on the very first day of March, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio. I borrowed this on Libby and read it as an ebook on my e-reader. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. So I read this book because I was looking for things to kind of, honestly, this entire month I was just chasing a high. I was chasing different highs, but in particular with The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, I had recently read The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tam. And whenever I would look up comp titles for The Daughter of the Moon Goddess, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea was recommended. So though I absolutely understand the comparisons, I think the vibes are similar, but that's kind of it. My biggest disappointment with this book was just the execution, right? So I felt the setting was strong. I felt the way that the characters were set up to be was strong. I felt like the plot itself was strong, but it wasn't executed well. So for example, let's rewind. So what is this book about? It is about a young woman who, in a very Katniss kind of way, sacrifices herself to be the bride of the sea god in place of her brother's girlfriend, fiance, wife, side chick. I don't really remember, but so I really enjoyed the atmosphere of it because once she was pulled into the depths of the waters, we were introduced into this very whimsical world that had dark, shadowy themes to it as well. But I feel like I wanted more of that, right? Because there was even this element where throughout the story, she is attached to other characters by a ribbon, but I wanted more of that whimsy from the atmosphere. When it came to the characters, they were set up to be really great characters to follow in the story, but I don't think we got enough of their characterizations throughout the story. So it kind of felt like there is somewhere a really in-depth character profile written out about each of the characters, but that wasn't put into play throughout the story, if that makes sense. And I could also see the relationships that I was supposed to care about between the main character and the rest of the ensemble, but I just didn't care. I think there was supposed to be like a found family kind of thing going on between like her and her love interest, obviously, but then there was also 2 other homies we met. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the found family vibes, but I enjoyed the story enough, right? I enjoyed the atmosphere. I loved the little reveals that we got throughout the story. I loved how everything came together. I loved the kind of nebulous but comforting messaging we got about family and sacrifices and all that good stuff. So yeah, it definitely earned its 3 out of 5 stars. I just think it definitely had potential to be a better story. I think in my Snow Monkey vlog, I mentioned how this story just needed to marinate a little more, really. The next book I read was Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I mean, do I really have to give you a synopsis of this book? Basically, there is a magical cafe in Japan where if you sit at this specific table at this certain chair, you can be transported back in time. But there's a lot of limitations with it, which I kind of didn't like. But I guess I'm not really much of a time travel-y girly anyway, so I don't know why I'm being picky about it. But you can only travel back in time to the cafe. So like you're not going back in time to just like any place at any time. It has to be a previous time that you were in the cafe, right? And also, you can't alter anything that happens when you go back in time. So no matter what you do or what you say differently, the future would still be the same. And I guess what was interesting about this is even the characters kind of question, like, what the fuck is the point of this chair or table or whatever it is? What is the point of being able to go back in time if you can only go back in time to the cafe, and if you can only go back in time as a what is the word I'm looking for? As a spectator and not, a participant in it. And if it doesn't change the future, like, what is the point? So I kind of struggled with that. I think also that the writing was just very stilted. It was very cold, which I've actually heard that be a criticism of a lot of Japanese translated fiction. I think this is the only one that I've read so far where that was clear to me, where I could see how cold and stilted and kind of neutral the language was. The reason that there is a single tab in this entire book is because I started to notice something, and I thought maybe I was just being a little too picky. Oh, there's this bookmark. I thought I was being a little too picky in things that I was noticing, and this might be something where in the original text, native speakers of Japanese might derive some sort of meaning from this repetition, but it just didn't translate well as an English reader, I guess. But there was one character, her name is Kazu. Hold on, let me make sure I'm not misquoting. Yes, so Kazu, almost every single time the perspective shifted to Kazu, she was always described as having a deadpan expression. She was never described really in any other way. So for example, Kazu was playing with her glass, staring at it with a deadpan expression. Every single time she's looking at something, it is with a deadpan expression. Okay, literally. So this is the page that I just tabbed. It's page 78. I just randomly flipped to page 68, and it says, Kazu went about her work with a deadpan expression as if nothing was out of the ordinary. Like, everything Kazu does is with a deadpan expression, and that's kind of reflective of how a lot of the story is told, in that all of these characters are described in one way. They all are very one-dimensional. They only have one kind of reaction to things. And so I didn't really care about any of the characters. I didn't like this. I don't recommend this being your gateway into Japanese translated fiction. I think you should just kind of skedaddle right over this. I gave this a 3 on Goodreads, but it's more like a 2.5. And then my saving grace swept down from the clouds and bestowed me with a 6 out of 5 star read, which is crazy because it is a reread. I read By Force Alone by Levi Tadar. This is a King author / Knights of the Round Table / Merlin, whatever you want to call it, retelling. And what's wild is I read this for the first time a couple of years ago. I'm sure I can look on Goodreads when I first read it, but it was either 2 or 3 years ago when I first came across this, and this was absolutely a cover buy. I had never heard of the author or the book before. I mean, get into it, sis. Get into it. She's beautiful, right? She's beautiful. I only rated this, I think, 4 stars the first time I read it. What is that? This is 6 out of 5 stars. The best way I can describe this is a very vulgar, crude, sometimes perverted retelling of the Knights of the Round Table. So all of the characters that you have come to love when it comes to this story, so Arthur and Lancelot and Guinevere and Merlin and all of them, they're featured in here, but you've never seen them like this. This is a perfect balance between gravity and levity. There are so many one-liners in here that just really hit home. And there's also one-liners in here that are fucking hilarious. There's one-liners in here that are fucking gross. But this is a masterclass in storytelling. This is a masterclass in showing the dynamic of human nature. You know, you can find very dark moments. You can find levity in that. And you can also find so much meaning behind the smaller, more pure moments. And I think that was just so well explained, or I guess it was so well done in this story. I can't emphasize enough how wonderful of a story this is. Like the whimsy too, and just considering all the awful things and all the awful people in this book. Oh, by the way, everyone in the story is terrible. They're all terrible. I want to say maybe Lancelot is the only character in this book that isn't a total ain't shit person, but they're all terrible, right? But even with that, I don't know. I'm rambling now. 6 out of 5 stars. I'm so confused as to why this book hasn't found its audience. It doesn't have a large readership, at least according to Goodreads, as well as the other book that is sort of in this universe called The Hood. I haven't read The Hood yet, but I'm looking forward to maybe getting into it next year. But 6 out of 5 stars. I can't recommend this enough. If you care about anything that I just said, like Merlin, Knights of the Round Table, King Arthur, like whatever, I highly recommend checking this out. All right, girl. So what you had read next? What I read? Oh, girl. Oh, Jesus. Next, I had the absolute misfortune of reading All Fours by Miranda July. What can I say? No. It's a no for me, dog. I think my most recent video, if my scheduling in my head is correct, my most recent video was it ended up being an entire video dedicated to how awful this book was, but that was not the intention. If you watch the video, in the beginning, I was trying to just film another reading vlog, just a normal reading vlog, right? But the more that I got into that book, the more angry and irritated I got with the story in the book itself, and it just turned into a video that was completely dedicated to me complaining about how awful this book was. But essentially, a synopsis of All Fours is a woman is kind of going through I don't want to say a crisis because it didn't really feel that way, but she's still just trying to figure out her way in life. And so she decides that she's going to drive across the country from LA, I believe, or California, whatever, to New York, and it was supposed to be for work. And she ends up deciding to just lie to everyone in her life, not go on the trip, stay at a roadside motel, and then proceed to pay an interior designer to renovate the entire rented motel room. And then shenanigans just follow from there. This was awful. I recommend watching my dedicated video of me reading this book for more information as to why I didn't like it. But I will say one positive thing that came out of this 1-star read is it made me aware of other books that are on the National Book Award finalist list and whatever. And I've also been looking more into other literary prizes. So I know the official shortlist for the women's prize, the fiction women's of prizes, that just came out, and somehow this book was on it. Don't understand. But and then also the International Booker Prize something. There's a list for that I'm tracking. Anyway, so I guess something good did come of this book because it has opened my horizon to other books that I want to read. But this was just terrible. I can't in good faith recommend this to anyone. I think all of the important topics that were mentioned or featured in this story are completely bastardized for shock value. It just, no. Big Big X. Big X. The next book I read was Small Favors by Aaron A. Craig, which was the book I was originally reading before I got bamboozled by all fours. And Small Favors follows a young woman that lives in a pretty secluded town way back before, modern day technology, and basically weird things start to happen in her town. So these gigantic wolf-like creatures are slinking around the edge of the woods. They have bright silvery eyes, and one of the groups of men that they sent out to go to the city for supplies are found to be completely butchered not far from the town, and it's clear that this was not done by a human, right? And also weird people start to arrive in town, and then shit pops off from there. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. This was a great balance of coziness, of the horror vibes, of the town gossipy kind of thing. So I think if you really like to read books where it's like, all of the neighborhood gossip being circulated around, or like people working in, a school or wherever they have a job, and office gossip and school gossip and just gossiping with coworkers and stuff. That's kind of the vibes you get from this book, because it is a secluded town where everyone knows everyone and everyone knows everyone else's business. So there was a lot of just interpersonal drama on top of the horror vibes, on top of the kind of cozy vibes, because her family is a family of beekeepers, and so there's a lot of things you get to see behind the scenes with them taking care of these bees and harvesting their honey and the things that they make with the honey. So I really, really loved it. 4 out of 5 stars. I think the only thing that could have made it a 5-star is if it could take it to that next level as far as like the grotesqueness. Is that a word? Grotesqueness. With the explicit nature of some of the things that were happening. If we could get more on-page gore, even though it was pretty gory. I think this is technically a YA novel, and it did kind of take it there, but I wanted more. So yes, 4 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend. Yeah. So that was the last book that I read in the month of March, and it is currently April 5th. I haven't read a book, or I haven't completed a book since then, and you'll see in a second why that is so. But this past week, I did not go to work, and so Wednesday, I went downtown to a bookstore here in Tokyo that has foreign language books, including a lot of English language books. It is called Books Kinokuniya, I believe, and it is their branch that is... It's right outside Shinjuku Station. However, I think maybe on Google Maps it says it's in Shibuya. I'm not sure. But if you are in the Tokyo area, if you live here, or if you want to visit and you want to go to this bookstore, the easiest way to get there, there's 2 ways I recommend. One, if you're brave enough to navigate the chaos that is Shinjuku Station, if you find the correct exit, and if you know, you know. In fact, if you have seen like Japan related content, there's like literal memes about Shinjuku and Shibuya Station. They are just they're chaotic. But anyways, if you're brave enough to figure out Shinjuku Station, there is an exit that it has the egg slut right outside of it. That is the correct exit to go out of. And you basically just cross like a bridge, and you're going into the building that this bookstore is in. It's on the 6th floor of the building that it's in. Or my recommendation, especially if you're trying to avoid Shinjuku Station and Shibuya Station, is to just go to Yoyogi Station, because it is directly outside of that building, but it's on the other side. And there's a lot less chaos. You have to go to the station. I promise you, just go to Yoyogi. Just cut it out. Cut it out. Anyways, if you've been watching my videos over the past few months, you know that I have been on a translated fiction journey, specifically reading Japanese translated fiction. And so I continued, adding to my translated from Japanese fiction TBR. So the first book I got is Strange Pictures by Yuketsu. Here's the thing, there's a ton of shit that I see on the internet that's like, this is popular amongst Japanese people and this has gone viral in Japan. And most of the shit is, no. Most of the stuff is shit that's popular amongst foreigners who love Japanese culture, but it's not actually popular amongst actual Japanese people. This is a book that I have seen people reading on the train. And the reason I know they've been reading it on the train, people in Japan normally cover their books with like book covers, so you can't tell what they're reading. But this specifically, the beginning of the book, well, yeah, these pictures I have seen in people's books on the train, so I know people are reading this. I have, for real. And what's funny is I had seen the pictures multiple times, like just looking over people's shoulders when they're reading things on the train. And then I was at the bookstore and I was flipping through it and I was like, oh, this is the book. This is it. So this actually is popular amongst Japanese readers. I don't want to know what it's about. I'm not going to look too much into it, but I'm very excited to read this. And then going along with almost the exact same colorway, whatever you want to say. This is Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. Here's the thing. I'm a little nervous. So I loved Convenience Store Woman, which is also by Sayaka Murata. However, Convenience Store Woman, it had its like kind of gross moments just because the main character was a little out of touch from reality and was just doing weird kind of gross things. But over on Bookstagram, I keep seeing people put Earthlings on like the graphics where it's saying something like super gross fiction or like, you know, a fiction for really gross girls. And it's like, what is going on in this book? I mean, I'm down for the grossness, but I think a lot of people actively don't like this book because of how gross and weird it is. So now I'm a little nervous. But my girl's not gonna let me down. Sayaka-san's not gonna let me down. She's not gonna let me down. So these two, and then why am I holding up every single book at the same time? Then I also got Hunchback by Sao Ichikawa. So this follows this follows a person that has a congenital muscle disorder. This person's name is Shaka Isawa, and basically they don't leave their house. They are on a ventilator, I believe. Yes, they're in an electric wheelchair and on a ventilator. And so their entire life is kind of lived online. And so they do all these provocative, explicit things on the internet. They have like this very vibrant personality online. But then all of a sudden, this new male caretaker shows up at her house and he's like, hey, you don't know me, but I know you. And this is kind of, you know, one of the first times she's encountered someone who knows who she is online, but in real life. And apparently it says, an indecent proposal happens on her behalf. So I'm really excited to get into this. Also, something really awesome about the author is she is the first author with a physical disability to receive the Akutagawa Prize, which is Japan's premier literary award. I also believe this is one of the books that is on I think it's on the, whatever, I'll put what literary prize, I think long list this is on. I don't want to misspeak, so I guess I have all fours to thank for me being aware of this book. Next, okay. Here's the thing. There are cover buys, and then there are cover buys. Okay, this is The Convenience Store by the Sea by Sonoko Machida, and I don't know what this is about. I had never even heard of this, but guys, Guys, please. Please. Look at this. Oh my god. Okay. And then right when I thought I couldn't be gagged any more than I already was, the inside flap says, "Welcome to tenderness." Why is that important? The konbini is named Tenderness. Please. What do you mean? Oh my god. That is so cute. It's so pure. So the back cover says, "They say the finishing touch in cooking is always love, and I believe the same thing is true for serving customers. I always try to remember to smile with love at the person standing before me." I cannot. I don't care if this book ends up being 250 pages of fucking wingdings. I am never getting rid of this book. Are you serious right now? Oh my god. A quaint seaside town. Oh my god. Guys. The little drawings of food. Not me about to cry about a book that I've never read before, but is this just not the cutest fucking book ever? Anyways, so... Oh, by the way, we need to shout out the translators. So... Strange Pictures was translated by Jim Ryan. The Convenience Store by the Sea was translated by Bruno Navosky. Hunchback was translated by Polly Barton. And Earthlings, I remember being frustrated because the translator's name is not on the front cover. That's kind of ridiculous. So Earthlings was translated by Ginny Tapley Takemori. Takemori. So yeah, this was translated by that person. Okay, so after my current read, which we'll talk about in a second, I'm probably just gonna jump straight into one of these. So much excites for the month of April. And by the way, that is the closest thing to a TBR you'll ever get from me. I don't really enjoy making TBRs because I can't plan what I want to read. I am a huge mood reader. So even right now, I'm saying that after my current read, I'm going to read one of these. I literally might be on the second to last page of my current read and completely change my mind and read something else. So that's why I don't film TBRs. I don't want y'all to I don't want to film a video with 15 different books that I say I'm going to read in the month of April and then I read one of them. That's kind of a waste of your time. But anyways, what I am currently reading is my first reread of this book. And we already know where this is going. I am rereading A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. This is the second book in A Song of Ice and Fire. So my current tally when it comes to A Song of Ice and Fire as a series, I have read A Game of Thrones twice. My first reread, I believe, was in January. This is my first reread of A Clash of Kings, so when I'm done, I will have read it twice. I have only read A Storm of Swords once. I have reread A Feast for Crows innumerable times. I've read it physically, so I've read it physically multiple times. I've read it on my e-reader, I think just once, and I've listened to it on audio, I believe 2 or 3 times. So I don't really know how many times exactly I've consumed that story, but it is my favorite book in the series. But I think I just want to reread this entire series just to be sure. But also, I want fucking Winds of Winter so bad. I just want to be ready. I want every single detail to be fresh in my mind so that when it drops, I can immediately jump into it as quickly as possible. But anyways, I'm rambling. And then I've only read A Dance with Dragons once. So, yeah, hopefully by the end of this year, I will have reread the entire series. I mean, at this pace, I definitely will have. But I am currently on page 2 or 4. And oh my God, I don't know. This was just, once again, the month of chasing a high. I was chasing the high, of the first time I read this, even though I only gave it a 4-star my first read through. It was still such a fun ride. And I'm so glad I reread it, because now it's a 6 out of 5 stars. And then I just started chasing the high of how I felt the first time I read through this series. And God, it's just so incredible. It's even better on reread. I'm just catching so many things. And that's what's great about big series, is a lot of the things that authors work so hard to kind of bury in the stories, like the foreshadowing and most of these tabs are either things that are funny, or it's foreshadowing to things that are going to happen. But I'm so in love with this series. I'm having a wonderful time with this. Also, publishers, take note. You see how it doesn't matter like how far or how early I am in the book, it still just like flops open? You see that? Do you see that? Take notes, please. This is what we want. This is what we want. This is what I want. This is so easy to read. I can just lay it anywhere. I can lay it on my lap. I can lay it on my bed. I can lay it on a table. And it's so easy to read. So I've been taking, even though this cover this edition is gigantic, it's literally bigger than my head, I can take this around anywhere because I just plop it on a picnic table. I just plop it on my knee and I can read it. I love this. Also, please, the large margins, yes. Yes, that's what we want. You see how large the spacing is in between the letters? Publishers, that's what we want. Please increase the readability of your books. Liz. Anyways, wow, this wraps up my first full quarter on BookTube. It's been a great ride. I've read so many amazing books, and I'm so fortunate to have so many 5 stars so far this year. I don't think January, February, or March really feel like a month full of duds. I only read 5 books in March, but I just came out with so many positive experiences while reading in March. And in February and in January, not only did I read a lot of books, but again, I had so many 5 stars. And also thank you to everyone who's been supporting my channel literally from like the first video that I posted a few months ago. It really means so much. I love talking to y'all in the comments. I love engaging in discussions. I love the recommendations that y'all give me, and it really means a lot. Every single view, every single like, every single comment, it's just really, really awesome. I made this channel because I love talking to people about books. I love discussing books. I love seeing different perspectives, about books. I don't know. Did I just spend like 2 minutes making you listen to me ramble when all I could have said is like, thank you? So thank you. So yeah, that wraps up today's video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Again, for the 1000th time, thank you so much for your support. And I don't know what's coming next, honestly. I think the All Fours video just kind of like kind of took me out of my rhythm. I don't think y'all would want a spoilery video for this. I was considering doing it because this book came out in fucking 1999, I think. So, I mean, I don't feel bad about putting spoilers, about this book on the internet, but I don't have any criticisms about this series at all. So I don't know if that would be like fun or insightful. It would just be like a 30-minute vlog of me saying how much I love this series and how awesome and amazing and perfect and flawless it is. That doesn't really sound entertaining to me, so I don't know why I would record that for you. Anyways, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.